And now, the general weather around Alaska.
Merry Christmas. I'm meteorologist Peter Chant, coming to you from the National Weather Service in Alaska region. And this is your Alaska Public Weather Outlook on this Christmas Day 2024. And if you want additional weather information on top of what I provide in this YouTube video, you can go to weather.gov. That is the National Weather Service's online presence. It'll bring you to a map of the continental U.S. with Hawaii and Alaska to the lower left. And if you point and click anywhere on this map, it'll give you a very specific forecast for any location in the nation. Of note, on this Christmas Day afternoon, we have dense fog advisories over areas of the plains, Midwest, because a return of warmer, moist air coming northward over colder air is creating some dense fog for travelers. And then further west, we have winter storm warnings, winter weather advisories, some wind warnings and advisories as well in portions of the northern Rockies from the Wasatch of Utah north through the Yellowstone region, Idaho, and then back out through areas of Washington, Oregon, down into the Sierra Nevada there of northern California. But for us in Alaska, we've had a area of low pressure lifting out of the North Pacific that has some wind with it. At least earlier, there was a high wind warning for the western and southern panhandle. That has been canceled early, but still some gusty winds to contend with overnight, with mainly areas of lighter rain across portions of the panhandle, as temperatures will be warm enough for rain. Winter weather advisory, though, is still in effect for some light snow and blowing snow for the lower Yukon Delta coastline, especially from Imanik down toward Hooper Bay. And then we're awaiting the possible arrival of a geomagnetic storm, of a CME, that could trigger a minor geomagnetic storm, which might enhance the aurora where skies are clear. It might, you have that typical quiet form of aurora that's just that washed out whitish green. Well, it might be enough to enhance that. It's not a guarantee, but keep a lookout for tonight if you have clear skies. And then coming up Thursday night into Friday morning, some light snow in the Anchorage area, like the first time in I think about 2 weeks. I've lost count, and we've had such mild weather. Many of the side streets, parking lots, walkways are very icy still, so please be careful as you're going about with the holidays. I've known 2 people that fell and had serious broken bones that required surgery and pins, so be very careful there. Arctic air is going to overspread the northern and central mainland. There's a push of much colder Arctic air from Siberia. It's going to just kind of clip the northern parts of the state, will be most notable. So taking a look at what we have here in a couple of the FAA webcams on this Christmas Day afternoon. Scammon Bay, some light snow and blowing snow. Not blizzard conditions, but it's out there, and the wind's gusting up around 30, 35 miles an hour. Temperature at 14 degrees. And then Ketchikan there in the southern panhandle earlier was under a high wind warning. Still windy there, rain, 43 degrees with winds gusting 35 to 40 miles an hour. So as of at least this mid-late afternoon, the only advisory currently in effect for the state is this winter weather advisory until 6 a.m. Thursday morning for the lower Yukon Delta. Mainly because of these strong north winds along with some light snow. We're not talking about a ton of accumulation, maybe another inch or 2 at most, and just some reduced visibility. But let's take a look then at some of the wind gusts that we've seen here within the past 24, 36 hours along the west coast. Cape Lisburne, 40 miles an hour, Kotzebue, 35, Wales, 50. And over at Gamble, though, 69 miles an hour, and Savunga, 54. So there have been some stronger winds there, especially on St. Lawrence Island. And again, these are brisk winds out of the northeast and north that's going to bring in a little colder air coming in on the back side of this near stationary front. But here, looking at the satellite imagery from early this morning as we put it in motion, there's a couple of impulses of low pressure lifting northward now, and that's what's brought the wind and precipitation to areas of the Gulf Coast and Panhandle. Further west, we have the northerly flow running from the Bering Strait all the way down across the Aleutians, and you can see here that kind of popcorn look to the clouds. That is a convective clouds of that colder air coming across the relatively milder waters of the lower Bering and North Pacific. So here's the weather map on this Christmas Day afternoon. Low pressure 954 millibars located. Entering now the lower central portion of the Gulf with this occluded front pushing up into the Panhandle. Further west, we have a low that's slipped now just southeast of the eastern Aleutians, and you factor in the low in the Gulf, entering the Gulf, and then high pressure out over Siberia. It creates a stronger pressure gradient from the Bering Strait down across the Bering Sea. That's why we have those gale force northeast to north winds, and then this stationary front divides the beginning of some colder air. The real Arctic air is back here beneath the Arctic high over Siberia, but some of that colder air is going to spill eastward and affect areas of the northern and middle interior as we go through this weekend. So later tonight into early on Thursday morning, this low is going to kind of have a couple of split centers, pieces of energy. This low, though, is heading back to the north and west, and what's going to happen with time is it's going to cross Prince William Sound. That's what's going to spread a period of lighter snow across the Anchorage Bowl, which could make for some slippery conditions Thursday night and Friday morning. We have another low, that one just sitting south of the Alaska Peninsula in the North Pacific, and that's going to kind of pivot back up toward the north and east. This front stays fairly stationary through the end of the week. We find that by Thursday afternoon, the low will be approaching the eastern Kenai coast, and then by Friday, the energy of that already has pushed inland with a little bit of snow, and we still have that front situated across the interior. On the other side of it, though, we're going to start to see colder temperatures. That'll show up in the temperature forecast, especially the nighttime lows when I show you that in just a moment. And then fairly quiet over the southwest, relatively speaking. We do have other systems coming back up toward the Panhandle that will bring some additional rain to the lower elevations and sea level, and potentially some snow up into the mountains. So looking at the temperatures for Thursday morning, we're looking at lows, some down around 20 below there. Point Lay, Wainwright, in that plains area of the western North Slope. Temperatures sub-zero in through the Yukon Valley, but generally, 0 to 10 below. And then we have readings stopping near 40 along the outer southern and western coastline of the Panhandle. A little below freezing maybe as you get northwest there of Juneau, as you get up toward above Skagway, and then lows about 35 Kodiak City. Notice, though, out over the Aleutians with that northerly cold flow of air, temperatures are getting below freezing, 28 out there toward Adak and to the north. Starting to get colder too, St. Lawrence Island 4 above at Savunga, and then temperatures really don't go anywhere up there tomorrow. It's only 7 or so for a high. With those brisk northerly winds continuing, there could be certainly some freezing spray in any open areas down here along certainly the south side of St. Lawrence Island. We've seen more in the way of ice redevelop. That ice is drifting southward. And for Thursday afternoon, highs stay below zero along the North Slope and especially northwest Chukchi Sea coastline. Temperatures stay a little below freezing there in the mid-upper 20s, much of south central, with the exception once you get out along the Gulf. 41 at Yakutat, 45 around Hyder and Klawak. And then for Friday morning, look at the lows starting to get a little colder here and expanding. We have some lows down around 20, 25 below. Again, Wainwright on over toward Point Lay, and also extending eastward across the North Slope into, say, Adigan and Atuvik passes. And some temperatures in the Seward Peninsula getting below zero, and even extending downward along the Yukon Valley, east side of Norton Sound. We're finding temperatures along the Elkan border, single digits, generally below zero. And then temperatures in the 30s across the Panhandle. And for Friday afternoon, Panhandle highs be a couple degrees cooler, 43 there, Sitka down through Ketchikan. And then as we head east, south central areas, generally Talkeetna and including Anchorage area in the mid-20s or so for highs. Notice the colder air, though, here over the northwestern half of the mainland. That front and colder air is going to seep a little further southeastward with time over the weekend. And again, the lows are just going to get colder across this region. You're going to see some low temperatures, 20s and even a few 30s below zero setting up here through the course of the weekend, so keep that in mind. And the temperature outlook for The very end of December and the beginning of January is trending colder in the north. So along and north of the Brooks Range, along the Arctic coast, Utqiagvik area, they're expecting below normal temperatures to start out the new year, with above normal temperatures continuing along the Gulf Coast into the Panhandle and extending out along the Alaska Peninsula into the Aleutians. Precipitation-wise, with that colder air implying high pressure, it's going to be drier. So below normal precipitation expected along and north of the middle upper Yukon River across the Brooks Range North Slope and along the Arctic coast. Meanwhile, precipitation may average a little above normal over southern areas of the mainland and along the Gulf Coast into the Panhandle, including areas extending southwestward along the Alaska Peninsula, at least into the eastern Aleutians. But there's still no signatures of any really big snows that would provide abundant above normal precipitation. But again, that could change. But this is the general outlook as shaping up now for the new year. So have a Merry Christmas, everyone, and we do wish you a Happy New Year as well.